Hey girl, Marissa here. You are listening to the Codependent Dummy podcast. As a young woman, you have been raised, reinforced, and rewarded for putting the needs of others above your own. Now, in your 20s, you're finding yourself exhausted, exasperated, and enveloped in shit relationships, especially the one you have with yourself. Codependency is a way of being where we put the feelings, wants, and needs of others above our own in an unconscious attempt to meet our own feelings, wants, and needs. Sorry to break it to you, sis, but that is not sustainable. This podcast is to help you undo all that so you can stop playing small and start taking up space, you dummy. Let's get everyone, to it. Today we have Karen McMohan. She is a certified relationship and divorce coach and the founder of Journey Beyond Divorce. She began coaching in 2010 after the pain of her divorce led her on a transformational journey into an incredible new life. Karen leads a team of divorce coaches in supporting divorcees, and she hosts the Journey Beyond Divorce podcast. She's the co-author of Stepping Out of Chaos, Turning Pain to Possibility, and created the 12-Step Divorce Recovery Program. Karen, thank you for coming on the Codependent Dummy podcast.
Marissa, thanks so much for the invitation. I am happy to be here.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'm curious how you define the ever elusive concept of codependency.
Yeah. So just in transparency, I am what I would refer to as a recovering codependent. Mm-hmm. And my definition is those of us who put others' needs before ours, not in a healthy way, but in a way that we don't always know, but is striving to receive love. And so that shows up, hundreds of different ways, but at the core, it's choosing to take care of somebody else over us with an end result in mind, which is more love, more acknowledgement, and it leads to a loss of self. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. We have good intentions as codependents. We're looking for love. We're looking for acknowledgement, just in a unhealthy, indirect, roundabout, right, loss of self manner.
Absolutely. And there is a healthy way to caretake, right? There's a very healthy way. In fact, there's a book that talks about going from codependence to co-independence that I highly recommend to my clients. It's called Conscious Loving by Gay and Catherine Hendricks. And I love that. I love the idea of co-independence and that much healthier version of supporting and sometimes taking care of our partner, but from a much healthier place.
Right. Okay, so before we get into the healthy, just sticking with unhealthy for a bit, I'm curious, Karen, if you can share any experiences of codependency in your own life.
Yeah, I have about 45 years of experience as a codependent. It was not until, my marriage hit a wall and I was able to stop looking at his part in the dissolution of the marriage and look at mine, that I was able to see my unhealthy behaviors, one of which was codependency. And so, for me, it really showed up in a way where I would put, in my marriage, I would put my husband's needs before mine. I would so much so that I began, when things would happen, I would consider his thoughts and his reaction and his emotions before I even gave myself the opportunity to acknowledge or feel mine and know where I was. That was for me, that was part of the truly losing myself. In 12-step programs, they say, who's renting space in your head? And they're not even intentionally renting it. We kind of like give it out. And then smile when I wasn't happy, say yes when I wanted to say no, including toward the end, in terms of just intimacy, sexual intimacy, just, say yes, close your eyes, just wait until it's over. And it's not, it wasn't created in my marriage. This goes back to my family of origin. And one of the things that I find so interesting is now I can look back and say, I always thought I was the lucky one in every single relationship, as if I didn't deserve them. Like I was so lucky to have whoever the him was. And so all of those thoughts and behaviors and way of operating in relationship are really, they're broken, they're codependent, they're unhealthy. Ross Rosenberg, I had interviewed on my podcast, he calls it self-love deficiency disorder. Like he renamed it because he felt like codependency blames the victim, whereas self-love deficiency disorder kind of names the core, the root of the problem, which I like that.
Self-love deficiency disorder.
Because we're all like thinking, we need the other person's love. We need this. We're trying to fill this emptiness. We want to be loved more. And so I have so many clients who say, I put in 200% and him or her only put in 10%. And I'm like, well, there's your first red flag, right? Like, why do we give and give and give and give when oftentimes the codependent isn't getting nearly as much in return?
Right. I'm curious, Karen, if any specific memory comes to mind where, because I love specifics, where like you're like, oh man, so we got an invite to this thing, or my ex-husband wanted to go here, and you really you can recall thinking about his thoughts, his emotions, his reaction before yours, what that was like.
So I got goosebumps. One of the really big problems in my marriage was we were not on the same financial page. I was raised by a single mom. I was very frugal, and he was making decent money, I guess, when he was single, and he spent quite easily. And because he was such a financial train wreck, I'm going to say, I don't know a nice way to say it. Everything had to go under my name because the IRS was after him. He hadn't paid taxes, all of these things. And so I had AAA credit. We put the mortgage, the cars, everything under my name. And then he would run up credit cards and we'd have to refinance. Nobody had a gun to my head. And yet, and every ounce of my being, like my inner wisdom was, this is just wrong. And I would sign the papers and I would refinance. And then we'd go out for this like expensive $150 dinner to celebrate that we were quote unquote out of debt.
Wow.
And I think that that's such a great example of the level of codependence that I was always professional, even having children. I had a full-time job. I'm a money person. I understand numbers. I was in sales for years. And still, I chose to acquiesce and almost believe him, as insane as that sounds, as I say it now.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, codependency is insane. right?
No. No, it's not.
No, it's seemingly insane.
It is a version of, I do think that we are a little bit disordered
Right.
in how we look at things, and that is mental unwell, right? Mentally unwell. So
Right.
yeah, so it is a little bit crazy, and it's crazy making.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right. So this specific example, right, really demonstrating your husband's needs above your own.
Yeah, and to the point where we were in such deep financial disaster, and if an outsider was looking at it, they would say, okay, Karen, you had the credit, your name was on everything, you were in control. You fully could have said no at any point, you could have pulled in the reins at any point. And looking back, yes, if I was a healthy minded person, I absolutely was in control, and I had no idea.
Mhm. Right. Right.
Yeah.
So before our interview, Karen, you shared with me that you work a lot with high conflict divorce, those who marry high conflict personalities. I'm curious, what are some ways you've witnessed codependency in your coaching clients?
Yes, I think that the healthier we are, the healthier a partner we attract. And so, as with everything, codependency has its spectrum. And so for me, a lot of the clients that I attract are in high conflict marriages. They're in marriages with um, men and women who have mental health issues, personality disorders, who have addictions, alcoholism, anger management issues. And so their partners are unhealthy, and we could probably scale that we're equally as unhealthy in a different way. And so my
Right.
clients, I have a client now, 30 plus years married, spouse is a physician of some type, and smart woman, full-time work, real professional, and never saw any of the finances, was given an allowance, was never allowed to have any control over anything. And now we can talk about, and it's the same thing. It's like nobody had a gun to my head. What was I thinking? Well,
Right.
we were thinking in our own broken way. I have other clients who, we could say I was forced to stay home with the kids. I was forced to do things my spouse wanted to do, vacations, spending, where we bought a house, what we did, uh, even knowing and being quiet about. I have a fella, he took care of everything, and was so codependent. He never brought up the drinking problem of his spouse for 2 decades. Like there was a
Mm.
certain training messaging that happened early on in the relationship, where this thing that was killing him, was making him feel so dead in the relationship. But don't you dare bring that up and talk about that. And
Right.
so this messaging that we can each get, that uh, that supports us, invites us, supports us, where we believe we need to shut down our needs in order to continue to get love from the other person. But then that love is also so conditional.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm curious, with you're coaching clients in these with those who are codependent, maybe middle of the spectrum, maybe leaning towards fairly extremely codependent, where does that codependency go with the loss of their partner, of their spouse? Does it disappear?
Right. Wouldn't that be nice if
Yeah, it would be, but yeah,
right.
I'm asking because I'm assuming it doesn't.
Yeah, so person A exits like stage left, and it's like, wouldn't it be so nice if our codependency just exited with them? And one of the things I talk to my clients about is if you think that your spouse is at fault for your codependence, you're mistaken. It didn't come with the relationship, and I could track it back to every relationship, back to my family of origin.
Right.
And so our codependence comes from our childhood, our family of origin, and it is a healing process. And so if you navigate your divorce with an eye on what's my part, then you can emerge from the divorce a recovering codependent. And of course, recovery takes a lifetime, but you can make major strides. If you don't, what you'll do, whether it's a divorce or a breakup, is you're going to shift that codependence from your number one person to your best friend, to your little sister, to your child, to somebody else. Like, we will not wake up one day and be healed, because there is, as Ross Rosenberg said, there's a self-love deficiency. And so it's a matter of learning that I am enough and I am worthy. And I used to say, I am like a really low maintenance girlfriend. I was a no maintenance girlfriend.
Right.
I required nothing. And as a result, I got nothing. And finding that balance, you don't want to be high maintenance, selfish, demanding. So it's finding that balance where I am deserving. I have a right to put my personality out there, my needs, my desires. I believe that there's somebody out there who can love me for all that I am. I don't have to hide parts of me. I don't have to wear masks. I don't have to shut down. And so that's the work we do with our clients, is keep the focus on yourself. Let's talk about, and for divorce, since it's so ripe with conflict, there's so many opportunities to talk about what's going on and slow it down and ask the client, okay, tell me about that decision you're making, and what's the motivation behind making it, and where are you on the list, and how does that feel, and what would happen if you were higher up on the list, and what is the fear that comes up, and how do you begin to navigate that fear of being seen as selfish, which is a huge one. It's like, if I'm self-loving, everyone's going to see me as selfish, and that's the last thing in the world I want to be, is selfish, because I have such a big heart. I'm a big caretaker. And so working through all of that so that when they emerge, they're caretaking their children, their adult children, their other friends and loved ones from a much healthier place, and they're caretaking themselves.
Wow. I wrote, I required nothing and I got nothing.
Yeah, that was me. And I was proud of it.
Right.
I thought that was a good thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So, touching on caretaking, I'm curious how you distinguish codependency and healthy concern in caretaking.
That's a great question. This is kind of a paradigm that me and my team use in our coaching. So each of us, each human being, lives in 7 levels of energy. We kind of go up and down this ladder all day long. And the lowest level of energy is feeling like a victim, right? Feeling helpless, hopeless, and not being able to get up. It's like when you're first heartbroken, or when you find out your spouse wants a divorce, you want to stay under the covers, you're depressed, you're in that victim energy. And one step up from that is conflict, which means that you're either worried, you either have a lot of internal turmoil, fear, worry, anxiety, or you're angry, frustrated, and blaming and accusing. Our codependence comes from those 2 lower energy levels. And so, you could have a friend who's a codependent, and we have that martyr. We wear our martyr. I do everything. Look at me. And he's asking for something else, and I'm going to do it. And still he's not going to, and that kind of a thing. Level 4, I'm going to skip over 3, level 4. And as we go up, it's healthier. It's more anabolic, life fulfilling. Level 1 and 2 is catabolic, which is life depleting. So level 4, and everything has a thought, a feeling, and an action. So 1 is victim, 2 is conflict. Level 4 is concern, and the emotion is compassion, and the action is service. And so there's a very big difference in being a caretaker at level 4. You're doing it out of compassion and love and service, versus out of level 1 or 2, where you're doing it to hold on to, or because you're afraid you're going to lose, or you're doing it from an unhealthy emotional energy. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So we could have 2 people doing the exact same thing for somebody,
Right.
And one operating from that catabolic, striving, clinging, needing, desiring, or I'm going to lose, versus the person who's like, I love you. And like with my children, right? So as a mom, when I caretake my kids, it's like, I love you. I'm going to choose to put that thing I need to do aside, because I can see what you need, and I desire to serve you and help you overcome whatever issue you're dealing with. That's a very different level than coming from a codependent. Okay, you asked me to do it. Okay, I'll do it, because I don't want you to love daddy more than me, or I don't want you to be angry at me, and I can't stand when we don't talk and you get frustrated. Like, that's that lower energy example. Does that make sense?
Yes. And I'm intuiting an example to share, and going back to you kept mentioning at the beginning, no one was holding a gun to my head, but you were acting like it. And yeah, with an ex in it's so funny, doing this show, like I used to say it was the most codependent relationship I had. And I'm like, Marissa, you are far more codependent with your parents. You've been far more codependent with friends, with your sisters. It just was really intense for a year with this guy. But anyways, he worked at a bank and needed to have so many people sign up for opening a card. And it was like the last day of the month, and he called me and he's like, I need you to go open an account. I didn't have a car. I don't even think I had a license. I got my license later, but I rode my bike miles to some bank to meet with some person and open an account. And it was like someone was holding a gun to my head. And if I didn't get it done, I was going to lose him. And to distinguish, right? Like I felt forced on a level like 1 and 2, as opposed to choosing. It was not this like choosing to help him from a place of compassion. It was feeling forced, urgent, fear-based, like you said, catabolic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think fear-based is a perfect example, because that's what it boils down to. Our decisions are fear-based when we're choosing to care for the other person out of the wrong place.
And I took it up a notch, and then I held that as insurance, right? So the next time that he hurt me or I asked him for something, I could pull out my card, my new bank card, and say, "Hey, mister, don't you forget how amazing I am and how self-sacrificing I've been. You owe me, who knows?" Yeah, I did that a lot. So, all right, well, let's talk about the triplets of codependency. Karen, what are the triplets of codependency and how are they connected?
Right. So when we see someone who's a codependent, they're also typically a people pleaser and a perfectionist.
Mm-hmm.
And so as I've done this work, both on myself and with my clients, these three triplets, they're like interwoven. And so you'll see how, let's look at people pleasing. Why is it so uncomfortable for us to have somebody who doesn't like us? There's billions of people on the face of the earth. So, so often with my clients, they'll say, well, I do that because.
Oh, I lost your there. Oh, I hear you.
Yes, something happened. I'll start that again.
Okay.
When I speak to my clients and we're talking about, them maybe in the early stages and starting to let people know about the divorce, and I can't do that because what will they think? And so we kind of walk through it. It's like, well, who are they? Well, they may think that because my spouse is going to tell them that I'm the problem and I'm bad. And well, are they people who know you well?
Right.
Well, no. The people who know me well will know. So then we're talking acquaintances. We're talking, the parents of your children's friends. We're talking about strangers who don't know you. You have no relationship, but you're still going to change the way you behave because of a fear of what other people think, like that people pleasing. And it's fascinating because then you go, wow, okay, so what does it look like if I have to please billions of people?
Right.
Well, that's insane. I can't please billions of people. Okay, so do I just have to please the thousands of people who live in my neighborhood, in my town, or my city? Well, that's crazy. And to just so that people pleasing part is, those of us who are people pleasers will put ourselves aside, will put on a different mask, we will behave differently to get the acknowledgement or validation or friendship or whatever of people we don't even care about, who actually don't know us that well and may not care that much for us. And it's fascinating. And that's absolutely hooked into part of the codependent behavior.
Right.
Yeah.
And perfectionism?
It's the same thing. I have found over and over again, I've yet to meet a client of mine who's a codependent who's not also a perfectionist. And if you think about perfectionism and also the root of codependence, so the first thing I'll say is perfectionism. If you draw a big circle, and then imagine we get to live on the line of the circle. Not inside the circle, not outside of the circle, on that skinny little tightrope that makes the circle. And so in relationship, we're either a rock star or we screwed up and we failed. And so that's an internal thing. That's like, I need to walk this narrow line. Now, for many of us, perfectionism has served us well. I was a straight A student. I was an all-star sports player. I was always successful in, in what I did in my volunteer work or my career or whatever, because of my perfectionism. It drove me, and we could really defend our perfectionism. The truth is nobody's perfect. And so either I did it well or I suck. And then you take that into the realm of intimate relationships where there's so much gray, but I'm a perfectionist, so I operate in black and white. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to attract someone who operates in black and white, a narcissist, an addict, somebody who has that same black and white thinking. And then I can make this work. I can make this relationship work. I can heal him. I can make her love me. I can do that. And then all of our perfectionist efforts go into this thing. And of course, it doesn't work. So I'm terrible. I suck. I ruined it. I'm wrong. And so a lot of that dynamic is all intertwined. And the perfectionist comes from the same place the codependent comes from, and the people pleaser, right? It's that family of origin. And there's so many different ways it shows up in the family of origin, in the dynamic or play between mom and dad. I had more than one, 2 or 3 clients where it came out of their sibling, because they either had a sibling who was autistic, and so it was more about where all mom and dad's attention went, or they had a sibling who was high need or just demanding, like a little bit higher on the narcissistic spectrum. And so they would give up themselves in one way or another. And then as they got older and went into intimate relationship, that was their pattern. Your needs are more important than mine. You come first. I've been doing this. I do it unconsciously. It's just the way I operate in my relationships.
Right. And I have to please you and be perfect.
Yeah.
To function.
Yeah. And what all of that means is I can't be me. Because if I show up as the authentic me, I'm a little sloppy, I'm a bit imperfect. I have needs that I'm afraid to share, but I have needs. And so if I really show up, all masks aside, nobody's going to love me.
So lonely down there.
Yeah.
I hate being down there, but it's very familiar. I can't be me, or I'll be alone.
Yeah. Which is, of course, the big lie. But it's the one that runs it runs the circuit for us.
Right.
Yeah.
And moving towards health and hope, I'm curious. Well, yeah, with these triplets of codependency, I'm curious how you would describe the triplets of interdependency, and how do we move towards that? Right, so codependence towards interdependence.
Right.
Perfectionism towards
Progressism. Progress. Yeah. I mean, I would say that, in 12-step programs, they say progress, not perfection, which I love. Right. So yeah, absolutely. We should all be striving to get better. I mean, that's in my very humble opinion, that's a reason for being here, is to spend our lifetime becoming the best version of ourselves. So progress is important. I think that codependency is representative of self-loathing. And I know that sounds really strong, but it's like we always put everyone first. So I think that you're talking about self-love. Right. And And people pleasing, the interesting thing about codependency and people pleasing and perfectionism is we're in control, right? We think we are. That's the big joke. It's like, I can control all of this. I can be perfect. I can please you. And so I think that the other side, and nobody's asked me this. So I so appreciate this question, because I'm actually going to give it a lot more thought even after our show, because moving from people pleasing to respecting and accepting
Right.
how everybody shows up. So if you don't like me, you don't like me. Okay, I respect that. That's your right. I'm not gonna choose to be a chameleon or change so that you do like me. But if I'm not your cup of tea, I respect that. And I accept it and I respect it.
Right.
And that becomes, and it's okay. The sky's not going to fall. My world isn't going to fall apart. So living in that level of self-love, self-acceptance, I think people pleasing, the opposite of people pleasing would be, if you're self-accepting, you can respect where others are at, because it's really about you, the people pleasing part. So self-love,
Right.
self-respect, and progress over perfection.
Mm-hmm. How do we move towards those?
Yeah. And that, the reason I chose to name my company Journey Beyond Divorce is because life is a journey. Forgiveness is a journey. Acceptance is a journey. Patience is a journey. Self-love is a journey. And so when I work with my clients, we really go situation by situation. This thing happened. Okay. And the question I like to ask is, if there were no negative ramifications, nothing bad or dangerous or uncomfortable was going to happen to you, how would you choose to be in this moment? And it's always a self-loving choice.
Wow.
And so that's the question that I say, just take it with you. And in everything you choose to do, if I was in this bubble and I was totally protected from anything negative, anything bad happening, anybody having a negative reaction to me, what would I choose? And that's at least your truth.
Right.
Now, you may still choose your more habitual behavior, and that's okay, because the process of personal growth is, first, I become aware. Awareness is step one. That's what our Stepping Out of Chaos book is all about. Awareness is step one. So if I become aware of when I'm choosing the other person over me, keenly aware, to the point where I'm aware every single time, and I focus on that awareness, I will become aware earlier and earlier in the scenario, the process, the circumstance. Right. Even if I don't change my behavior, I am growing the muscle of awareness.
Right.
As I grow the muscle of awareness, I become accepting instead of judging. Put the perfectionist aside, put the bat in the closet. Don't beat yourself up. It's like, wow, here I am. And again, I'm saying yes to him or her when I want to say no. Okay, I'm learning that this is my codependent behavior, and I'm noticing it and I'm accepting it. Those two are vital before you can act. The 3 A's: awareness, acceptance, action. The action then comes where you go, okay, I've noticed it. I'm aware of it. I'm catching it early enough to change it. And that's usually where we come toe to toe with our comfort zone. No, I can't change. It's too uncomfortable. I'm scared. And it's like, you accept, and possibility lies on the other side of that comfort zone. So now all you have to do is step out in faith, behave differently in a healthy way, in a self-loving way. You'll find that the sky doesn't fall, the earth doesn't eat you up, and you'll have, one one brick laid, and then you just start doing that. And after a while, it's like, wow, this feels really good. And the thing that you'll come up against, that comfort zone, is everyone you have trained, keyword trained, to expect you to be selfless, that's going to turn around and tell you you're selfish.
Right.
And that's what we have to push through, because as people tell us we're selfish, we're challenged to then look inside and go, nope, this isn't selfish. This is self-loving, and I'm comfortable with what I'm doing. I'm sorry you feel that way. I'm not going to blame you for feeling that way. I've trained you to expect me to constantly give up myself for you. So I understand, but still I've chosen to honor myself this time.
Yes. I can't help. I have a confession to make, Karen and everyone. So this, like 2 days ago, okay, this is very recent. This is current. I have confronted my therapist in the past. I meet with him virtually. So he has his laptop on, and in the past, he was on his phone. I would say, I don't know if he was getting an appointment reminder, but just subtle movements on his phone. And I said, I've noticed you're on your phone. And right. So I was aware. Mm-hmm. And I also didn't say anything at first. I was aware. I was accepting, like, wow, Marissa, you're noticing this and you're not saying anything. You are paying top dollar. Mm. And you can't say it. Oh, baby girl. Okay. It's so hard. And then, and then I was like, okay, the next time he does it. And then it was probably like maybe 3 more times. And yeah, I finally, like, I came in, it was so, I wish I could have filmed it, but we started and I said, I have to tell you something, because I knew if I didn't start the session and say it, I would have arguably sat with him for an entire session thinking about it and not able to say, can I have your undivided attention, which I'm paying you for. And this, this is a long story, but this past Saturday we were meeting, and like halfway through, Karen, I sensed he was distracted, and he has glasses. So it just seemed like he was working on other things while we were meeting. And for like 20 minutes, I sat there and I was aware, like, I was like, I should say, you seem distracted. Like, it seems like, he was engaged, but yeah, he'd throw in a comment that he's like, oh, that makes sense. I'm like, what makes sense? Like, what did I just say that made sense? And, he'd fold his hands. So it seemed, so it was me internally trying to discern whether I could say anything when, yeah, I could have just said, like, you seem distracted, and confronted him. But I was like, no, I'm scared. I'm scared he'll think I'm accusing him of being distracted when he's not. He'll feel angry. I'll feel guilty. And I'm a, dramatic, projecting girl. And so we logged off, and I talked to myself afterwards. And I was like, Marissa, now you have to say it. Now you have to say it the next time you see him, and say, for 20 minutes, I sensed you were distracted. I'm not sure of it. And I was afraid to tell you out of fear of anger. And now I'm saying it. And then we have to process it. And I'm like, I don't want to. But that's what I'm working on.
That is
truly what it comes down to.
Marissa, that's such a great example. And just as if we were talking about an intimate relationship, you're investing in a mental health expert. And I like to say everything is good information. So if your therapist gets angry at you, that's pretty good information.
Right.
It's rather inappropriate. And that's what makes it good information. So we have no control over how the other person is going to behave, but for you to be so clear, so aware, so gentle with yourself. That's lovely that you were able to be that gentle with yourself, because I think that's the other place where we mess up and we beat ourselves bloody. With self-condemnation instead of wrapping ourselves in love and self-compassion. And whatever happens, it's exactly what's supposed to happen. And so you're either going to have someone who completely receives you, is honest and acknowledging of whatever was going on, or someone who behaves in a way that that you get to discern, is that, does that work for me? That's good information. Right. Does that work for me? And the fear part that you shared is perfect. It's like, what are we afraid of? I'm afraid he's going to get angry. I'm afraid I'm going to be shown to be wrong. I'm afraid of the reaction. And the desire-based decision is, I desire a therapist who is 100% present. And when I ask or call that person on something, that they show up really healthy for me.
Yes, 100%.
Beautiful.
It's like a warm hug, Karen. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'll email you and let you know how it goes. And I'll update everyone in an upcoming solo cast. Yeah, just those moments, I really do believe codependency comes down to, when we start with all this awareness, it really comes down to these moments, these tiny decisions we make that, can lead into a snowball, but it doesn't have to. We can stop it from, I don't know, getting out of control.
Right. And if I could, I always like giving people like a snippet, something really concise that helps. And so what we're talking about is, in the moment of acting, we're making either a fear-based decision or a desire-based decision. And so you deeply desire to speak to your therapist and let him know what you noticed. And so we may make a fear-based decision 2 or 3 or 10 times while we're working on our awareness and acceptance. And then fear-based decisions are easy. They keep us in our comfort zone. There's not a lot of danger around them. Desire-based decisions are scary. It requires a leap of faith, a trusting in ourselves and in the outcome of what we're deciding. And so for your listeners who resonate with what you just shared, it's like, in every moment you can ask yourself, in doing or not doing X, is this a fear-based decision or a desire-based decision?
I love it. All right. Well, I'm choosing desire.
You go, girl.
Yes. I'll let you know how it goes. And thank you for the free coaching, Karen.
Yeah.
If any of my listeners are resonating with what you're saying, the advice, the feedback, the information that you're sharing, where can people find you?
Yeah, thanks so much for asking. So Journey Beyond Divorce is the website, and all of our social media is all Journey Beyond Divorce, and the podcast. And then we have, my favorite thing is the gift of a free rapid relief call, which is a full 1-hour coaching session on the house, no strings attached. Wow. For anybody who is struggling. And I guarantee you will walk away with a tremendous amount of value, a really good flavor of how coaching can support you, and an action plan to get you going.
Awesome. Yeah. So I will put links to the free rapid relief call, to all your socials, and also the free divorce survival kit.
Yes. Offer. Yes. Yeah. That's a solid 5 tips to get you going if you're in breakup or divorce, and how to begin to move forward. So thank you for sharing that.
Okay. And for breakup and divorce, everyone. Okay. So if you're breaking up, it will resonate. If you're getting divorced, it will resonate. And that's all. So thank you so much for coming on, and we will see you guys next week.
Thanks, Marissa. It's great being here with you.
Thank you. Hey girl, it's Marissa again. I'm not like a regular podcaster, I'm a cool podcaster, right? Thank you for listening and staying till the end. You can find me on Instagram at Therapy with Marissa. Email me, marissa@codependummy.com. Check out codependummy.com for more information on the show. And baby girl, a subscribe, rating, and review would be much appreciated. Till next time, I want you to remember, if you are feeling unseen, I see you. If you are feeling unheard, I hear you. And if you think that you don't matter, know that you matter to me. I want you to go out there so you can stop playing small and start taking up space, you dummy. And now, the disclaimer. Girl, this is not therapy, and I am not your therapist. This podcast is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information in regards to the subject matter covered. It is given with the understanding that neither the host, publisher, or guests are rendering any legal, clinical, or other professional service. If you want or need a professional, please find one.